Yeah, so hello everyone and welcome to the first session of Project Showcase of Rigbitter Labs Discord server. So this is the first such kind of event that we are hosting currently on this server. And previously we live streamed and did a watch party of Ross World 2021. So we are thinking for similar such events on this server. So if you have any suggestions, you can post it on the server suggestions channel and do let us know. Apart from that, it's an open discussion. Adeep will be showcasing his project that he did, which is a waiter robot in ROS simulation. So he will be showcasing it. If you have any questions, you can unmute yourself, you can ask it, and like feel free to ask in any languages if you want, like Hindi, English. Be comfortable, don't be afraid. Just if you have any doubts, it's for your benefit so that you learn better. So feel free to ask any questions. Adeep, over to you. Have a short introduction of tell us a short introduction about yourself, and then you can start with the presentation.
Yeah, thank you, Pranshu. Hi all, it's Adip here. So I have completed my Ross mentorship program last month, and after the completion of it, this project was assigned, and now since it's completed, it's not yet fine tuned, but it's still in a working condition, and I can give the demo. And about myself, I am a working professional in Accenture Solutions as an software engineer. But since I am also interested in robotics, so I have joined the Ross mentorship program. And the Ross mentorship program provides a very clean way for learning Ross. And now I will start the demo of my project. My screen is visible, right?
Yes, it is visible.
Okay, fine. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. So it states the problem statement. So the problem statement provided by Rigbitter Laswords. We have to design a waiter bot which is capable to deliver orders to specified table using SLAM, and we have to design a user interface also. So for solving this problem statement, let's see the design which I have created. So this is the design which I have made in Fusion 360. A simple four-wheel drive bot with 5 trays, and in the front view, you can see the display here. And I have added 3 cameras with the LiDAR at the bottom. So here, if you can see, there is a top camera also. So the top camera is used to read the QR codes. That's a future functionality I will be adding. For example, how precision landing works in drones. Just in the similar way, I was thinking of adding a QR code in the ceiling just above the table. So after it navigates to that point or to that coordinate in using the SLAM, and it can then precise its location using the top camera and the QR code or the Orco marker, which we call it in the drones. In the next part, I have used a depth camera here. The depth camera is not yet functional. I have used just the camera view. There is one depth camera which is horizontal and another depth camera which is tilted at a 45-degree angle. And at the bottom, you can see the LiDAR. So LiDAR has been placed at the bottom since we are using the 2D navigation only. And if I keep the LiDAR at the top, and this bot is around 4.5 to 5 feet approximately, won't be detecting the tables and all. For it to work precisely, we will be needing a 360-degree SLAM or 360-degree LiDAR, or we can use the depth camera, which I have added but not yet used. So this is the whole board design. So this is how it will look in an environment for in a restaurant. These are all the rendered images in Fusion 360. This is the final look of the bot. So yeah, as I was saying, it is a four-wheel drive and the dimensions are provided in mm. So this is around 13,009 mm and this is 565 mm. Okay, so now how I solve the problem statement. The first thing to solving a problem statement is to write down the problem statement, take out the keywords, what it is asking, and using that first step was completed. According to the points or the keywords that I jotted down, the first thing was to design the model. But before designing the model, I had to do some research, like how the design would look like, how the bot would look like, how many trays would have been, or instead of trays, I could have added arms to directly deliver it. But since I'm also new to this designing field, I thought adding trays would be a little bit simpler than directly going for arms. So after the first phase of designing, multiple designs were made and multiple flaws were also there used in the joints and all, and while converting to URDF also. After solving all the problems, next comes the step for designing the world in Gazebo, in which the bot will be simulated. So next I will be showing you. So this was the final design which was selected for in the Fusion 360. So now I will be showing you the world which I have created, the cafe, just to simulate it, the entrance and the cafe containing 9 tables with the reception desk and the kitchen at the back. So this is the overall view of the world. And I'd like to also mention one thing. The corner portion, the brown box at the back side of the corner, that part is left for the charging docking station. So for now, I'm assuming it to be the charging dock. So if the bot is below a certain percentage, it will automatically navigate to that spot. So this is the overall view of the cafe. And the tables and chairs were all designed in Fusion 360, and then it was imported to Gazebo. The walls are already available in Gazebo, which we can use. And the next slide comes the user interface. So this is the user interface for the waiter bot. It contains 9 tables as mentioned, and the select drop down is for the trays which need to be selected. For example, for table number 1, I need to select tray number 2, or for table number 2, I need to select tray number 1, or like that. So this button represents the return to kitchen option, and the go button I will be explaining in a little bit. And the start button starts the navigation of the bot. And this is the emergency stop button. And we have two different cameras. So that is the top front, which is the horizontal depth camera at the front, and the bottom front camera, which is tilted at an 45-degree angle. And this battery low button is just to simulate the low battery level of the bot. Like if the bot's battery level is below 10%, it will navigate to the charging dock at the corner, the world. In the next tab comes the manual control. In the manual control, you can understand by the word tab name only. You can control the bot manually in all the directions. And in the mapping tab, you will be getting the manual mapping. In the manual mapping, I have used the G mapping package from ROS. In autonomous mapping, I have used the Explore Light package, which is the like a clone version of the Frontier Exploration. But Frontier Exploration, since it's not supported in Melodic, I have to use Explore Light. And the last button is for viewing the map which has been created by the bot, or saving the map depending on the condition. So now I will be giving you a demo for the simulation. Is the voice audible in the video?
Can you play it? No, it's not audible.
It's not audible.
No, no.
Okay, then I will be explaining it myself with the passing time. In the first part, I've just explained the bot's functionalities like the screen, 5 trays, 2 depth cameras, 1 top camera, and the LiDAR, and having a 4-wheel drive functionality. So here I am running the gazebo simulation, and here you can see the UI. By default, the battery percentage is at 100%, and it will be reducing after 20 seconds just for the sake of simulation. So you can see the battery level reducing. Now it's in 99%. The emergency stop button, camera view, and here you can see the 9 tables. And as I've told you, a dropdown will be containing all the 5 tray numbers, which we can assign to the tables. Okay, so I have just explaining the UI, which I've done earlier. So I will just forward it. Sorry. Okay. S- So now I will be clicking on the map view button. So if I click on the map view, so you can see the map which has been generated by the bot. This was the map was created earlier, and the map was edited in the GIMP software, which is required in 2D navigation, because when I was creating the map, it was little bit difficult to get the bottom part of the tables of the which are in the cafe. It was like a 2 and 4 lines it was showing. So in GIMP, I just use the black marker to block the areas, like the no-go zone for the bot. So now I'll be clicking on the start button and the navigation will be started. Okay, so I've now clicked on the start button. The navigation has started with the Arvis window. Now I'm selecting tray 1 for table 1. So now here are some of the error handlings I had to do. Like if the tray is not selected, I cannot select the table. So you will get a pop-up message like please select a tray number first and then click on the respective table number. Another error handling done is if I select same tray number for two different tables. So I will be getting the error selected tray is already assigned to another table. So I have to select a different tray number. So now I have selected tray 2 for table 2. So when I'm clicking on go, it will start navigation as per my selection. Like I've selected table 1 first, so it will navigate to table 1 first, and next it will navigate to table 2 as per the selection. So after reaching at the destination, I will be getting the order delivery message with the assigned tray number. When the customer clicks on OK, the delivery is completed, then it will navigate to table 5. So after reaching the destination, the same pop-up came for table 5, the tray 2 has been assigned. When the customer clicks on OK, the total delivery is completed. The bot will navigate to its base location, that is the kitchen. So now this is the camera view, the top camera, the horizontal camera. After reaching the base location, all the selections made will be resetted. Since the bot has 5 trays, so the maximum allowed selection of tables is 5. So for I am assigning trays for different tables. I have assigned all the tables, and if I try to select another tray for table 6, I will get an error message like all the trays are occupied, maximum 5 orders can be allocated. Allowed. So I will run the selection, all the selected trays. So according to the selection, it will navigate to table 1 first, then table 2, then table 3, then table 4, and table 5. Now I will be demonstrating the emergency stop button. So when I'm clicking on the emergency stop, it's canceling all its navigation for the tables, and the bot has stopped. So for stopping the bot, I have used a flag in the code. So for resetting it, I will have to click on the reset return to kitchen button, which will reset all the selections and the flag which I've used in code. So now it has reached its base location after clicking on the stop and return to kitchen button. Now I will give the demo for the battery low button. So the threshold which is set for the battery to return to its docking station is at 10%. But since 73% going to 10%, it will take a lot of time since there is a 20-second interval for every percent decrease. I will click on the battery low and it will directly reduce it to 10%. So the corner has been assumed as the docking station. I've clicked on battery low. The battery level has been reduced to 10% and the bot will navigate to its docking station, which we can add it later. The bot has successfully reached its destination. So this was the navigation part all complete. So now I will give the demo for the manual control. After enabling the front camera, the normal command velocity we give for the forward button, backward button, and the normal functionalities for the bot's movement. Now in the mapping tab, we will go to the mapping tab. So in the manual mapping, yeah. So while clicking on the manual mapping, we have already used the navigation part and the map is already been used in the navigation part. So we will get another error message that the map, sorry, my mistake. So it will say that the map is already existing. Like I have already created the map earlier and the map is already in its assigned folder. And before starting the manual SLAM program, we will need to delete the map first. So now if I'm clicking on OK, and the map was already used in the navigation part and it's still in use. So we are getting another error message that the map is still in use and we are unable to delete it. So I have to restart the program. I will forward it a little bit. So for starting the manual, the pop-up came. I've clicked on OK and the map has been deleted from its location. So when I clicked on manual mapping, the manual control panel has opened and it has started the G mapping package. Then the user can navigate through the whole arena using the controls provided. So the mapping has started now. And using the LiDAR which was at the bottom, it's mapping the complete area. And since we are using 2D navigation, here you can see the LiDAR is detecting 3 lines for the table. And while navigating, there was an issue like the bot was trying to go through the table, which is not possible. And because of that, I used that GIMP software to make the no-go zone area for the bot. So after doing the complete navigation, we can click on the map save button again, and it will save the map which was generated. And it will be saved to the directory, as you can see here. Now let's go to the autonomous. Anyone speaking?
No, Adip, you can continue.
So after restarting, I will go to the mapping. I will click on autonomous mapping. Since I previously created one map using manual mapping, it's not allowing me to create another map. I will have to delete the map first. The map was deleted and click on the autonomous button. It will start RVs and the bot will start to navigate the whole area. And the Explore Light package will try to map the whole area. As you can see, the bot is moving autonomously without any manual control or human intervention. In some cases, autonomous mapping won't work, like the table bottom, as I've shown you earlier. It might collide with the table. That's an issue. But to resolve that issue, we can use 3D mapping using a 360 LiDAR or a depth camera. Just like in this part, you can see the Explore Light package has created a path through the table. So here the Explore Light package will fill and it's going to collide. In the camera, we can see that it's going to collide with the table. So in some cases, it's not feasible. So the map generated by Explore Light package, I have saved it by clicking on the map save button. And since it was going to collide, I just clicked on the emergency stop button and stop its navigation. And the new map has been saved to the directly, which was generated by the Explore Light package. Okay, so this was the whole functionality of the bot, all the tabs and all the error handling. And one thing I forgot to mention, this whole UI was made in PyQt Designer and then it was converted to a Python file where I've used multi-threading to control the programs and different processes of the bot. So this was the demo for the simulation. Yeah, and any questions?
Adip, we have a question in the chat box from Beeble Brox. He is asking how collision detection or safety is managed. Can you tell about how obstacles are detected and how does it work?
The obstacle detection is working similarly as an ultrasonic sensor. We are using the LiDAR here in place of an ultrasonic sensor, which is more efficient in detecting object. So yeah, for object detection, LiDAR is only used for now. And in future, we can use the depth camera as well for more precision. Like for example, a LiDAR won't be able to detect a human being, but using a depth camera, we would be able to detect a human which is walking in front of the bot as well as the distance of the bot from the human. So that's a future functionality I have to add.
Also, can you explain them about like the global cost map, local cost map, how obstacles are seen in the local cost map? If you can show it from the video.
Yeah, sure. Let me go back. Or I will just like run the program if it's possible. It would be easier for me. So yeah, this is the bot, this is the layout. And let's start the navigation. So here you can see the global cost map and the local cost map. So global cost map is the whole mapping area with, as you can see, there are some red boundaries with some a little bit of purple or a blue accent. The red boundary is meant that the bot will definitely will collide with the wall if it gets to it. But the purple area is like can go, but still there is a chance the bot will collide. And the gray area is the no collision zone for the bot. And if I change the view of local cost map, yeah. So local cost map is the obstacle detection for the bot within this square box, which has been defined in the cost map parameters file, which I'll be showing you. So if I change it to cost map, I can get the colored view or the detected view. So here you can see the red part is the no-go zone and the purple is like a little bit of acceptable zone. It can go, but still it's not acceptable. But the gray area is a go zone. So if I want to show the parameters, this one, yeah. So we have to define the global cost map parameters and the local cost map parameters for the SLAM to work perfectly. And these parameters are a little bit difficult to tune, so we can use the pre-tuned parameters of bots like Turtlebot. You can get it from GitHub where all the values are already provided, and that values we can use as a starting point, and then we can tune it a little bit according to our need. So this is a static map, but in Gazebo we can just tune it in a dynamic way for like if we run if we run rqt reconfigure, we can dynamically tune the map. I will maximize it. So here we can tune the value for the cost scaling and the inflation radius for both global and local cost map. So if I try to increase the inflation radius for the global cost map, you can see the purple area has increased. And using the cost scaling, we can just adjust it according to our need. And similarly, in the local cost map, if I change the inflation radius, it changes. So we can use it to dynamically tune our map and make our map tuning a little bit easier for the bot according to our requirement. And then this is a dynamic, it won't be saved. So you can just get the values which is suitable for the map you want and then add it in the param files which are defined here. Any other questions?
Yeah, so there is one more question from Ketan. He's asking how are the table locations assigned? Is AMCL post used in that?
Yes, you're correct. We have used the AMCL pose. I will give you one demo like how I did it. Let me close this. So I will be needing to run the ROS topic list, get the topic for the AMCL. So this is the AMCL pose, and we will need to do a echo on it. We'll just copy it. So if I do the echo for AMCL pose, we can get the current position and orientation of the bot. But if I need to get the bot's position for a specified table, I will use this 2D pose estimate in RVS. I will click on it, and wherever I click, for example, for table 1, I need the coordinates. I will click near the table and I will select the orientation. For now, I will be selecting that the bot will be facing front of the entrance. I will click here. So this is the estimated location of the bot, and in the terminal we can get the new position and orientation of the bot. And then I have feeded this coordinates and the orientation in a function, and the bot can navigate to that. Any other questions?
Can you show it where you specified these coordinates?
Yeah, sure. So this is the whole program. So I have defined all the coordinates for the table globally so that I can use it later. And here is the uh, yeah, here is the function which is used to move the bot to a specified location. Uh, since MoveBase is a action library, we have to create a client and a server. So I have created a client and I'm waiting for the client to connect to the server. After that, I am feeding the XYZ coordinate. For example, if I'm clicking on table number 1, it will call this function with the specified table number 1 coordinates, which is this one. After assigning it, the MoveBase object has been created, and afterwards we are just getting the frame ID, the ROS time, and the goal we are defining. And since the bot will always be facing the entrance after reaching a table, the orientation is fixed. So this is the whole function for moving the bot.
Great. So we have recently a new joining of this server, which is Fawaz, and he had a question. So he was asking like he is a beginner in ROS and he has learned tutorials from the official ROS page and also done Moveit tutorials for ROS Melodic. And he want to proceed with navigation stack. So he's asking how can he proceed further with the navigation stack. So you have made a navigation stack for your robot. So could you just guide him how you can proceed?
I didn't get your question. Can you repeat it? There's a network issue a little bit.
Fawaz asked he knows basic tutorials about ROS and he want
Okay.
to proceed with navigation stack. He want to proceed with navigation of robots. So how could he proceed with it? How could he start with it?
So for navigation, starting would be just do this, get a bot with a camera or a lidar. For starting, I would suggest go with a lidar. It's a little bit easier for the 2D navigation. Then there are different mapping packages already available in ROS. For example, G mapping, cartographer, and you can just try one by one. And after trying it, you can just try the different packages which don't need human intervention. Like I have used the Explore Light package. That's a autonomous navigation package for creating maps. There are many other autonomous maps package like the Frontier Exploration package. You can look through that also. But for starting, you can just go through the G mapping and cartographer. Then you just move to autonomous mapping. After going to the autonomous mapping, you can try with another package called the VSLAM. In VSLAM, visual SLAM will be used. Here, the depth camera will come into action, where you can create the map using a camera and its depth sensors. Another package is the Orb SLAM with the Orb 2 package, I guess. I don't remember correctly. That is used for creating maps without a depth sensor. And a normal, even a web camera can create the map. It won't be as precise as a depth cam or a LiDAR, but still you can give it a try. So there is limitless possibilities for mapping, and even you can create your own mapping package if you want and tune it as per your requirement. Yeah. Any other?
Yes, there is one question from Sahil Sonai. He wants to know about path planning and coordinate based goals. So I guess this is the goals that you showed for the table. It will help Sahil. I guess that was the answer.
Okay, then I will just give a small explanation on the complete process, what I have followed. So I will go to the UI program first, for example. Yeah. So in the UI, table when table 1 is clicked after selecting the tray, table 1 button. This is a function which has been connected to the table 1 button. Like what will be the action if I click on the table 1 button? I will navigate to that function now, table 1. So this is the table 1 function. In this table 1 function, I am checking all the possible errors which might be there. And after checking that, give me a second, where did it go? Yeah. So I am appending that table 1 to a list. Like as I've shown you in the video, there was a go button. So after clicking on table 1, this T1 code I have used for different tables like T1, T2, T3. And after clicking on table 1, this T1 is has been appended to that list. So whenever I click on a table, it will get append to that list. And after I click on go, it will iterate through that list one by one. For example, if I have clicked table 1, then table 3, then table 9. So in a serial manner only, the move base function will iterate over it. Afterwards, give me a minute, let me go to that function. Yes. So this is the function for the go button. Whenever I click on the go button, it will start iterating through the tables which has been appended to the list, which is the table num. And the table coordinates table contains all the coordinates for each and every table. After getting the matching field, we can just ignore this part. After that part, this part is not required for the thing you are asking, navigation part. We are calling the move-based client function with the coordinates of the table. The first is the x, the second is the y. So the move-based client function is defined here. So in this function, the xy coordinates are passed. When the xy coordinates are passed, the client has been created and it's been connected to the server. Then we are just renaming the variables of the xy to get the clarity. Then I'm creating an object of move base goal, and then we are getting the frame ID, which is the map. Since we have to navigate according to the map, so I've got the frame ID, which is the map. Then the point function is used for navigating the bot to a specified location. Here I am passing the XY goal coordinates, creating a point. Then I'm defining the orientation of the bot. And when I want the bot to navigate, I have assigned all the things, the coordinates and the orientation. Then I will call the function send goal, which is a part of the client. And after sending the goal, we will be getting different feedbacks. There will be a feedback that the navigation has been completed. We can capture that or we can create our own also.
Okay. There is one more question by Shanto. He's asking which technology is used to create the UI. So you already answered it saying like it's PyQt, but can you show a demonstration of how PyQt works?
Yeah, I will show you one. So I will be opening the Qt Designer app. This is a part of PyQt only. Here you can, for example, I will uh, make a new UI only just for the demo purpose. This one, screen size, open, recent. I will click on create. Default form has been created here. So here you can assign different layouts. You have a form layout, grid layout, horizontal or vertical layout, and you can get different push buttons. So I can add a push button here. I can change its size, anything. So in Qt Designer, you can create your complete UI starting from push button to horizontal lines, slider, dials, and you have many more functionalities. Even I haven't gone through all the functionalities. After creating the UI, you can just command line in the terminal to convert this UI into a Python code. After converting the Python code, you will be getting something like, uh, yeah. So you will be getting something like this with all the widgets, buttons, every definition you have created. So in PyQt, I will show you mine what I have done. So this is the UI I have created. I have used a tab layout here. This is just normal label. These are the push buttons I have used. The table I have assigned, again, these are the push buttons. I have just changed the icons. Instead of text, I have used an icon. And in the select part, I have used the drop down where I can assign all the table trees names, and you can edit its properties in the sidebar, this location. And for not getting confused with the names, you can change the object name to table one or whatever you are using. For example, for battery low push button, I have assigned the object name as battery low. And whatever name you assign in the value, you will be getting it in this form. So for, as I've mentioned, for that table one, you will be getting, for example, this table six, table seven, and table one, like that. And after creating the UI, you can just scroll down in that retranslate UI function. This will be auto-generated. All these things will be auto-generated. And just above retranslate UI, in this class, you can just mention the functions like whenever I will be clicking the table one button, what will be the function? For example, this is the left forward button for the manual control. This button is when the button is released, the bot will stop. This is the function. But when will be pressing it, the bot should move forward. So FL button press function will be called when I'm clicking on the left forward button. So if I navigate to that button, if I navigate to that function, it is just a simple command velocity publisher. Move base, move command is a global function. Global assignment I have done. Move command is a object of twist. where I'm sending the x and z velocities, linear and angular velocities, and I'm just publishing it to the move command. So there is a push button and a function which has been assigned to that button. Like whenever I will be clicking the button, what will be the function? So it's simple as that.
Okay. And he's also asking if the user interface will work in full screen.
User interface, you can design it by as you wish, as you require. You can change the, wait, I will show you in mine. See, the window has expanded, but these are not dynamic yet. These are all are static values. You can't make it dynamic according to screen size. I haven't tried that yet, but if you get it, let me know.
Okay. And he also wished to see a simulation. So can you show this in working condition? Like, can you show this how it works? I guess he
Yeah, sure.
joined right
I
now.
can show you that.
Yeah.
I will
Until
just
then,
rerun this program.
yeah. Until Adim reruns this program, I would like to mention that we have almost 48 people watching it right now. So this is like a record-breaking peak online on this server. So congratulations, Adip. Your project has attracted a lot of people, and they are very interested in it.
Thanks,
We
Vanshu. It's
have,
great to hear.
we have 48 people watching right now.
Also, while the code is being run, I wanted to know, Adit, if anyone has to access this project or wants to build on top of this, are you planning to host it on your GitHub or keep it open source, something like that?
Yes, sure. I will be making it open source. I will be pushing it or pushing whole package to my Git repository, and then you will be able to access it. I haven't done it yet.
Awesome.
Yeah, sure, Adip. So
Awesome.
once you make it open source, you can put it on the show of your work channel so that people can see it and they can work on it.
Yeah, sure. I will do that.
Yes.
Okay, so I will start my navigation. So here you can see all the parts are already blocked. I have edited the map. I will show you what the map was looking like earlier, just to give a clarity what I made the changes. So as you can see, the map created by the LiDAR was, the tables were not captured correctly. Even the entrance was also open. The cabinets was not captured correctly. In tables, instead of a block or something like that, I was getting 3 lines. So I have edited the map and made it a no-go zone area using that GIMP app. So our viz is started. I will be selecting table 1 with tray 1 and table 4 with tray 2. I've assigned 2 tables to the bot with 2 trays. Now if I click on go, it should navigate to table 1 first. I will enable the camera also so you can see the view. So this part, it's customer's duty. He has to click on OK if he has received the order. After delivery of the first table, it will navigate to the second table which I have assigned. Again, the customer will be clicking on OK, and this the whole user interface, it will be visible in the display screen of the bot. So since all the deliveries were completed, now the bot will return to its base location, that is the kitchen.
Also, Shanto is asking, what are your thoughts on WebJS UI?
I am not so familiar with the front end part, but I will surely like to know about it. Like I'm more of a back end guy. Just for making it a user friendly, I have designed this UI. And even I'm not so familiar with all the functionalities of the PyQt designer. I will be needing some time with that.
But still, like being a beginner in this part, still you have managed to do a great project out of it. So it's like I can see it's 100% accuracy. The robot went there properly without any errors. It was navigating. It is really nice.
Yeah, it was a lot of like a hit and trial method I've done in the tuning part. I have mix and match different values from different bots and got this values.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah, any other functionality like the bot has moved to its base location, and in the manual control, you will be able to control it manually. The bot can move forward, left, and you will be able to see the camera, whatever it is. In the mapping, if you click on manual, you won't be able to do it. The map is already existing, but I'm already using the map, so it won't allow me to delete it. Just some error handling, so it doesn't crash my program. But still, there are some bugs yet I need to fix. But at least it's working. Any other questions?
There aren't any. If there are any questions, you can unmute yourself or you can ask in the stage chat section.
Hello. 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 Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Yeah. Hi, Adip Chaitanya Puridi here.
Hi, Chaitanya.
Yeah. Did you recognize me?
Yes, I have recognized you. You are my batchmate only.
Yeah. So, it's a great congratulations to you for your robot. Like it's a great working and moving. And one more thing I like to ask: what was the total components to be added and total components which we fitted in your robot?
I didn't get you.
What were the components used in your robot?
So he wants to
There
know
are-
like the physical aspect of your robot. What all things did you use in it?
Okay, then I will show you the design of my bot. It will make it easier.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so since I had to simulate the bot in Gazebo and if I had multiple joints, there would be different issues for the PID tuning as well as the inertia values for the bot. So I have kept as less joints as possible. This bot whole side, the bot, the trays, all the trays, the front part, back part, this is a complete component. And if I play it, this part is a complete component. So in total, you can see the top part as one component, the base link at the bottom, you can see it as the second component, and at the bottom there will be four wheels. I had I didn't added joints for the motors. I have also included that as a part of the base link to reduce the number of joints. Along with that, I have added the top camera, but I haven't used the functionality of the top camera yet. I have used the functionality of the front and the bottom camera. Another component I have used is the LiDAR. So three cameras, a LiDAR, and the design of the bot as per your requirement with four wheels or two wheels as per your requirement.
And what is the main component?
What is the main component? Or like, what do you mean by that? Like
Like
everything would be a main component.
like for total what the total about we the Rebel apps use the Raspberry Pi. Like
You are
in this
talking
similar
about the controller or the
yeah
computer you are saying. You can
no
use
controller.
any computer, for example, like even a Raspberry Pi is a companion computer. It's a small. You can use Jetson Nano. You can use Intel's if it's available. Anything you can use. Anything which ROS supports.
Okay. Thank you.
Uh, yeah, and there are a couple of more questions. Shanto is asking, is there any feedback from motors? What type of motors are you using? And like, the main question is, how are you getting feedback? The odometry
Okay.
feedback from the.
For now, the in Gazebo we have the option for the getting the odometry from the world. For now, I'm using that. I'm not using any encoders, something like that.
Can,
But
can can you
if
show it how you are getting it in Gazebo? Like, Using what are you getting the feedback?
In Gazebo, yeah. When you create the URDF file and after clicking on the, if you run it, you will be getting an ODOM topic by default. And in that, wait, if I let me run the program, I can show you then. So if I do ROS topic list, you will be already seeing an ODOM topic,
Yeah, I
which
guess
is
that has
generated
been
by,
published using the plugin that you're using for four-wheel drive, right?
yes, exactly.
Yeah. Can you show them the plugin?
Yeah, sure. So this is the plugin for the skid steer drive, which is a four-wheel drive plugin for Gazebo bots. Here you can see the topic as the command velocity. We have to give the base link, the robot base frame, and here we have to define the all the wheels position of the left front joint or the right front joint, all the wheels position we have to define here. Then we have to define the wheel separation from one wheel to the second, the opposite one. Then we have to define the wheel diameter. The dimensions are here are in meter. Update rate defines the at what rate it will be publishing. Robot namespace you can skip for now. It's not so necessary. You can mention the torque of motors, and if you are using a skid steer drive plugin, you will need to make the broadcast TF true to get the ODOM. Otherwise, it won't be working. But if you use a differential drive, it will work directly without any issues.
And also there is one more question, like did you use the cameras for dynamic obstacle avoidance? So
Yes, I haven't used that depth sensor for the cameras yet. I'm just using it for the camera view only. So some functionalities are still in a experiment phase.
yeah, but dynamic obstacle avoidance is happening using LiDAR, right?
Yes, it is happening using the LiDAR.
Okay. Does the robot like dynamically plan its path if it faces an obstacle?
Yes, it will be planning it dynamically. For example,
Yeah.
let me give you the demo. So I've started Arways. Now, just for showing it, I will be giving a, if it's possible, yeah, I'm placing a obstacle here. You can see the LiDAR has already detected the obstacle. Now I will be giving it a navigation, level 1. So it has planned its path across the obstacle. You can see it's not colliding with the obstacle. Earlier it was going in this path, if you can follow my cursor, but now it's going around the obstacle. So it's planning the path dynamically.
Yeah, and Adip, can you show one more demo in which you can give the location of table number 9, and after it plans a path, you add an obstacle in between the path. Can you show that demo?
Yeah, sure. Let me do that.
After the planning is done, then you add an obstacle. Maybe then.
Okay, sure.
Also, as a note, like all these things are taught in the ROS mentorship program held by Rigbitter Labs. So if you would have seen the recent message in the welcome channel, like there was a lot of things, a lot of rumors going on. Is Rigbitter Labs a ed tech company or what is it? So I want to clear that out. Rigbitter Labs is a service based company. We work with various national as well as international clients, and we work on similar kind of projects with those clients. And when we were growing our team, we wanted to hire engineers who knew these parts, but we saw in India there was a very lack of engineers in robotics field who know all these things. So that's the reason we started another vertical, which is an education vertical, so where we are teaching you all these things through industrial mentors. Yeah, so it's all for your benefit because we want the Indian education system to get into this industry, to grow into the ROS industry. Yeah, Deep, you can proceed ahead with the demonstration.
Yeah, sure. So now I'm selecting a tray for table number 9 and I will click on go. So the path has been planned. Now I will be going to gazebo and adding an obstacle. Okay, let me see what path. It was a path around this. Okay. I will put an object. Yeah. Okay, it hasn't detected yet because the local cost map has not reached.
Now it should able to detect.
Yeah, the bot has detected it, but I think it has made a wrong path planning here. And it will wait. Yes. Yeah. So as here you can see it's planning its way dynamically around the object.
So have you made a base footprint really small? I guess that is the issue. It went through that small area.
Yeah, it might be the case.
Yeah,
I also
but
want
it's
to ask
fine.
one.
If it reaches the goal, then it's no issue.
Exactly.
Hello, Adib.
Hi.
My name is Sal Sanaya. Great congratulations on your project.
Thank you.
It's a really nice project. Even I am working on a similar project. I wanted to ask one thing. Have you kept the move forward only as a true or false?
Yeah, I have kept it as true because the LiDAR view, if I show the laser scan topic here, the backside it won't be able to detect, and if I keep like move forward as false, it will definitely collide to some object if it's try to move backward. That is the reason I have kept it as move forward only.
Exactly. Thank you, Adib.
Thank you. Any other question?
We don't have any questions right now. Uh, yeah.
So Adit, you have placed like one or two depth cameras, right? And you also spoke about the visual slam techniques. So are you
Yeah.
planning to implement that? Like, can we
Yes,
see a
definitely.
showcase 2.0 of this project where you are implementing that?
Yeah, sure. You can. I will be definitely working on it.
Instead, I would recommend, like, as
Mm.
Adip is going to open source it, I would recommend others to work on it, and maybe others will get chance as well to showcase their project. So maybe they can
That's
build
also a
over
good
it.
idea.
Yeah. Let's keep the
Yeah,
community
like
active this way. Also, Adip, I have one question for you. Like
Yes.
during working on this project, I guess you worked over a month on this project, right? Or more than that? How many?
Yeah, it's been a month.
Yeah. So, what were the problems that you faced, and if there was any blockage, like you thought कि अभी नहीं हो पाएगा इससे ज़्यादा, and if you faced such problem, how did you overcome it?
Yeah, the main issue was the error handling part was the main issue because at starting the whenever I click on the buttons, the program would just crash. Even though I was using multi-threading, I wasn't able to get like where was the issue. And by step process, I handle all the errors one by one. And after handling it, for example, the map has been used, but whenever I try to click on the navigation part, the program would just crash. So handling was the error handling was a little bit trickier here because I had to handle multiple errors, multiple conditions a user might click. I had to think on the user's perspective, not on a developer's perspective.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Like whenever we also work on commercial projects, we have to think how a user will think about it. Because
Yes,
you,
exactly. It should be user friendly because they won't be knowing programming.
yeah. Yeah. Sahil is asking which software did you mention about modifying the map? Can you show a demo of it? How did you modify?
Yeah, sure, I can do that. The GIMP app, this is now I think named as a GNU. Let me check. Uh, this dog with the brush. This is the app I used. GNU Image Manager, I guess. Okay, let the program start.
Uh, so does it autonomously corrects or modifies the map after it scans, or you modify it and upload again?
For now, I have modified it manually. As if you have seen or not in the vacuum cleaner bots, they also use SLAM using LiDAR or camera. And in their app, there is an option for no-go zone, and the user can mark the areas in the room where the bot cannot go. So
Right.
I haven't implemented that through my UI. So I did it manually using the GIMP app.
Great. So that it does not go between the tables, right?
Yeah, exactly. So here you can see earlier you are getting 3 lines for the tables in the map, and after I have made it a block, it's generating the local and global cost map around the block instead of the 3 lines. And even the entrance is blocked, so the bot
Uh,
cannot go outside the cafe.
so while you edit the map in the GNU map application, it also generates the
Yes.
YML file, right?
Which file?
YML, which we
E-
insert in the movie.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's taking more processing. Okay, it's started now. I'll open.
लाइव टॉपिक मला नाही माहित कसं आहे आहे लाईव्ह स्ट्रीम नाही
Zoom the map. So here you can see the first map that was generated by the bot was like this, and after that you can use different options, different brushes to just block it. Oh, sorry, not this one. If I click on this, let it go. You will be getting a different options for pencil, paintbrush, airbrush. So you can use anything. You can use even a pencil also. So like if you can get the black area, you can reduce the size according to your need, and you can just slide over it. It will block the area. So this black area will be a no-go zone for the bot. And afterwards you are done, you can just click on file, as give it a name. Sorry, it's not save as, it should be an export as map.yml. Sorry. Oh, sorry. Yeah, my mistake. Export as, where did it go? HM1, 2, get 3. I will just export it. Data formatting, you can keep it as ASCII and export. So now you should get the map 3 version of the PGM. So yeah, your no-go zone is created.
So how you get the YML version of this PDM? Like while using the MoveBase, we usually insert the YML.
Yeah, this part I have referred to a YouTube video of Construct, I guess, Construct or something
Oh,
related to. So they were using this option. I'm not so much sure about the YML
Yeah,
part.
for YML you
but
can keep it the same, because if you open the YML file, Adip, it just
yeah,
refers to the PGM file, so you can open it and show. Yeah, so
yeah,
it just tells the path of the image. That's it, and apart from that, it tells resolution and origin, all those things. So
Yes,
apart,
absolutely.
yeah, so
Absolutely.
here
you
you can
can just,
change the map.
yeah, exactly.
Thank you very much. Yes, got it.
Also, there is one more question, and I guess this should be the last question because we are extending our time. So, Tanmay is asking that he has been working on ROS for past 3 months and he's facing a lot of problems. So, can you suggest, like, how should he learn ROS, or are there any resources about it? How did you learn ROS?
I was like I knew about ROS, but in my college days I was going through different ROS videos, different ROS resources, but as I've mentioned, it was little bit difficult to sort it out and get it working. But afterwards I got this opportunity to get my doubts cleared at the ROS mentorship program. I joined there, and they taught it from basic, from generating from topics, publishers, subscribers, all the thing basic, from designing. And after designing, the main part is the slam. After completing all the basics in the ROS mentorship program, I can go through any of the YouTube videos, any of the YouTube tutorials, or any resources or documents. It's very much easier for me to understand and get it working. For example, Explore Lite package was not taught in the ROS mentorship program, but I did manage to get it working. So that's how Rigbetter Lab is helping.
Are there any other questions, or we could conclude the chat, conclude the today's session? I guess like it was a really helpful session, Adip. You explained it really well. It was
Thank you,
nice.
Pranshu.
Yeah. Any last questions? If not, then we can conclude. Also, do you want to give any closing remarks, Adip? Like, how are you planning to put this project forward, and then what are your future plans?
Yeah, as I have already told you about my future plans, like I haven't used the top camera, depth camera, or the the visual slam yet. These things are yet to be completed, and some fine tunings for the local and global cost map is yet to be done. And apart from that, I would like to modify the board's design. Like now we have trays, I would like to add motorized arms. Like I would like to use the Move It package so that the bot can pick the tray and put it on the table. That would be the final part of this project.
Great. So yeah, so
Yeah.
everyone, Deep will be open sourcing this project and he will share the link. So if you guys have expertise in this area, you can help improve this project, and maybe we can have another project showcase for you in similar way. And
Yeah,
so
that would be great.
yeah. Also, like just on a closing note, thank you very much, Adip, for joining this session. It was really informative. You explained it really well. Also, we hit a record of 48 concurrent peak online users watching your live stream. So, this was the first time we were having such live stream, and you made a record itself. So, that's really great, Adip. Yeah.
Even for me, it was the first live stream.
Yeah. Okay. Also, I would like to tell you guys about one more thing. I will share my screen. I would request everyone to join my screen sharing if you could. Yeah. Can you guys see my screen? Yeah. So Adeep was a part of Rigbetter Labs mentorship program, as he said. As Tanmay was asking, how did he learn? How did it go through it? So again, just to summarize, mentorship program is something that we came up to encourage Indian students into this industries, because we found out that whatever you learned into colleges and schools, it's not enough to be working on an industry. So just like Adeep, he made like learning from this project, he made a robot that can be used in hotels, at restaurants. So similarly, we are launching more mentorship programs. So Adeep was part of ROS 101 ROS mentorship program. We will be soon launching mentorship programs for ROS2, quadruped robots, robotarm, augmented reality, virtual reality as well. And if you want to know more, you can go to rigbitterlabs.com. We have a mentorship section over here. If you go through this ROS mentorship program specifically, so you will get all the information. And yeah, so here we gave an example of warehouse robot. So similarly, with similar kind of methodology, Adeep implemented it on a waiter based robot. So even if you want to know about what is the curriculum, as I said, we get into design, development and simulation. We work on hardware as well. If you wish to see the full curriculum, you can download it. And finally, if you want to apply, you can contact us here. That was it from my side. Thank you very much. And thank you very much, Adeep, for being a part. It was really great having you.
Thank you all.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Karthik, for bringing this.
Yeah.